What would you do if you had only a year left? How would you use your time? Would you try to live life to the fullest? Would you wallow in despair and wait out the inevitable? Or would you set out, with nothing left to lose, to try to make the world a better place for those you leave behind? That is the question and the choice made by every person in the city of Lumiere, where some take up arms and launch desperate expeditions to stop the countdown to their demise. Sit back and let me tell you everything you need to know about Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Clair Obscur started with one man, Guillaume Broche. At the time, an employee of Ubisoft. He wanted to make something like Final Fantasy, a really high-quality turn-based RPG, the kind that Western developers and the AAA gaming space in particular had all but abandoned, or at least neglected. He built a small demo and got Kepler Interactive to jump on as publisher, and with that backing secured, he left his job at Ubisoft and along with about 20 or so other colleagues, he founded Sandfall Interactive, with one of the voice actors for the demo, Jennifer Svedberg-Yen, becoming the lead writer. Originally, the game had a more steampunk Victorian England-inspired look, feel, and narrative, but about 6 months into the development, Broche was told by potential investors to think bigger, and so they scrapped the existing narrative and most of the characters and revamped it all into the game we know today, based on a painting Broche saw of an artist going into their own works and a short story from the lead writer. Florian Testard, the game's composer, was found originally through an indie game forum, and from there Broche listened to the music he had on his SoundCloud, and loving what he heard, he brought him on board, and while discussing his vision for the game and his inspirations, found that Lorien held very similar views. As Broche said in an interview, "We had exactly the same references, we loved the same things, we watched the same things." In terms of gameplay, Expedition 33 draws inspiration from not only Final Fantasy, but also the Persona series in terms of the cinematic aspect of the turn-based encounters, where the camera makes it seem like you're watching a movie or show. Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey inspired the quick-time events in combat. And lastly, the dodge and parry were inspired by From Software's Sekiro. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 released on 24 April 2025 to overwhelming success and critical acclaim. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 begins in the remnant of a city called Lumiere. Very much an analog for Paris, you can even see the Eiffel Tower in the background, though it's warped, melted even, and the buildings are covered in a strange rock that you can see the locals mining. Flowers cover every surface, and more are seen sold from stalls. 67 years prior to the start of the game, an event occurred, the Fracture, in which Lumiere was thrust from the continent onto the ocean, and in the distance, a monolith appeared, the number on it counting down from 100, one digit per year. Expeditions were sent out from Lumiere to find out what the continent was like now, or what was going on with that monolith, and the giant figure sitting beside it, the Paintress they dubbed her, for she painted a new number every year. I can only imagine that the number didn't mean much until it got low enough to match the age of the oldest people, at which point they promptly disappeared, dust to dust. Each year after that, they celebrate the gommage, a word that translates to scrubbing, the moment when the paintress would paint a new number, advancing the countdown and killing off another chunk of the population, with those who remain becoming younger and younger with every passing year. The game kicks off during the latest gommage, when the 34 gives way to 33, and our point-of-view character, Gustav, says his farewell to the woman he loves, Sophie, while also preparing for the upcoming expedition, Expedition 33, of which he's part of. He's 32 years old, meaning he has 12 months left to live, and so, much like others before him, he sets out to try to defeat the Paintress and save everyone else. Not only is Gustav an expeditioner, he's one of the foremost scholars on the expeditions and an incredible inventor. Joining him on the expedition are many more of those doomed to die. But first among them is Maëlle, an orphan raised by Gustav and his sister. Maëlle stands out because unlike the other members of the expedition, she's only 16, meaning she still has many years left to live. Strange to think that when the maximum age anyone will get to is 33, someone who's 16 is already middle-aged. The next day they depart towards the continent, to face the Paintress and uncover the secrets of the monolith and the fracture, and maybe find a legendary being or two along the way. Where the Gamash and the Countdown are the sources of despair, the expeditions are beacons of hope, one more chance at changing fate. Where to begin? Every aspect of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is astonishing in its own right, the result of skilled people creating something with passion and dedication. Let's begin with the gameplay. Combat is fantastic, with many character options to keep it fresh and engaging at all times. Not to mention that it's a very reactive combat loop, with both QTEs for your attacks and the defensive prompts to dodge, parry, and counter, including some additional options introduced along the way, meaning that every single attack is avoidable. If you're good enough with the timing, you can very much do a no-damage run on Clair Obscur. Of course, the enemies don't make it easy, with varying attack animation speeds and patterns, where one monster might just swing once, the other will make 5 attacks in a row. But by the same measure, your skills also hit multiple times. So if an enemy has a shield blocking 5 attacks, and your skill has 6 hits, the last one will deal damage. And that's without even mentioning the expansive skill trees every character has that provide multiple ways to build out your characters and engage with the combat system. Speaking of character builds, every member of your party has their own unique playstyle. For example, Gustav is the most straightforward, having an overcharge gauge that fills while using his abilities, and can then be spent on a big damaging attack. Lune, the spellcaster basically, inflicts stains of the elements matching her spells, and those same spells consume those stains for special effects. Another character, Ciel, has a resource generator and consumer playstyle. Not only are they unique in the abilities, but they each have weapons with varying scaling on different attributes. So Gustav can have a weapon that scales from defense and vitality, and another with more luck and agility-based scaling. So you can build up the characters in many ways. Do you match the scaling on the weapons, or do you go in another direction altogether? I know of some people that have made party builds maxing out everyone's speed, making them super fast glass cannons, while I built one of the characters with primarily vitality to turn him into a tank. And then there are the Pictos and Lumina, special abilities you first equip to master, and then they become available to all party members. These range from simple bonuses to abilities that drastically change how the game is played, such as increasing the window for parries, but negating the ability to gain action points from using that form of defense. And with action points being the fuel for all your skills in combat, it's up to you to determine if that's a worthy trade-off. Combat animations are incredibly cinematic, and the flow of combat is very swift, which is something I love, as I'm not a fan of slow combat animations. That's my personal taste. Along with the fast combat speed is fast over-ground traversal. Characters run fairly fast, and with the overworld map being at scale, you don't spend that much time just meandering around the map trying to find the next place to go. There are still fights to be found in the overworld, as they are in the different zones, but you can see where the enemies are, and it's up to you to engage with them or not. There aren't any random encounters. There's plenty to look for in terms of exploration, from currency and new Pictos to journals left behind by prior expeditions, and even gateways to some mysterious locations. Zones you visit come in all sizes. Some are large open areas, others are just beaches with parkour challenges. There's a lot you can do in Clair Obscur, and while you don't need to grind to succeed, the option is there for you. You have the freedom to fully out-level most things. The writing is superb. Not just the plot, but every aspect of it. It's rare to find writers in the gaming space that understand that no matter how dark or grim your setting is, there have to be moments of levity to counterbalance the overwhelming pathos. If you don't have those moments, it's impossible to care, as you become desensitized to the dark bits. Expedition 33's storyline and setting are already pretty grim, but you're given enough moments to get to know the characters, to laugh with them, to feel for them, and so when things take a turn, you're perfectly primed for that moment to have an impact on you. It's masterful. It's also the kind of writing where even when there are twists, they make perfect sense in the world's logic based on what's been established, and at any point, looking back to the journey you've been on, you can understand how it all happened, how the pieces fit together. Does it make it so you could perhaps predict something that's coming? Yes, that's not a bad thing. You don't always need to subvert expectations, especially not if it means breaking all the rules and logic you so painstakingly laid down. Clair Obscur Expedition 33's world, logic, character motivations, and actions all make sense, and that's outstanding. Speaking of characters, they're all very well defined and complex. They have their own motivations, aspirations, and even traumas. Some bear their scars physically, others have them under the skin, but they feel alive, like people you could meet down the street as you both contemplate what the monolith is counting down to. And this extends beyond the main cast. The villains are, perhaps, even more complex. Hell, even the characters that you can tell are clearly there for comic relief have layers to them. The Gestrels are funny-looking wooden people that demand fights to show you all their wares. But while they're generally funny, it doesn't mean they're simpler than other characters. The voice cast is phenomenal, with great actors like Daredevil's Charlie Cox, Final Fantasy XVI's stupid, sexy voice man Ben Starr, Baldur's Gate 3's Jennifer English, and even Andy freaking Serkis. The voice acting in Expedition 33 is superb and helps get that great writing across. And complementing all of that is the stellar soundtrack by Lorien Testard. Every track is memorable, and every track complements the scenes they play in perfectly, helping convey the emotion. So if you're on the verge of tears with what you're seeing transpire, the soundtrack will push you over the edge into bawling your eyes out. And of course, as you'd expect from a great RPG, the boss music is simply unforgettable. I have spent hours upon hours playing through Expedition 33, and every minute of it has been a blast. If you've not picked it up, I urge you to do so, for one of the best RPGs I have ever played. Not just in 2025, but overall. This is a title that stands shoulder to shoulder with the giants of the genre. And there's a reason the main title of the game is Clair Obscur. Expedition 33 is but one tale, and there's enough in there to suggest Sandfall has more in store for us in the future, other masterful creations of sight and sound, and I for one can only excitedly wait for their next work of art.